I think I started out is with a trajectory of the development or the evolution of Black psychology. And for a long time, I've been struggling with, is it Black psychology? Is it Afrocentric psychology? Is it Afri psychology? And it became very obvious to me in terms of my own contributions. Because Black psychology is not something I created. It's been a body of work that's been created by many hands. And the hands that I have in it, I've been really struggling trying to get accurate about. We need a science, or we need an understanding of African human function. So I was motivated by that idea. How do we talk about African human functioning without the conversation being contaminated with Western and European thoughts? And for a long time, I've been trying to make an intellectual break with Western psychology, and it even became even greater than Western psychology because it was really an intellectual break away from Western hegemony over thought, and that's really a serious issue. That Western hegemony over thought means that young people are making commercials, or who are thinking about entrepreneurship, or trying to develop a social work model for working with Black families and children, or whatever we're doing. This big shadow of European thought over us is problematic. So I've really been really struggling with that in different ways, and trying to come up with concepts that would help free us. At one point, I talked about this notion of conceptual incarceration, and I was using that to say that the concepts you use literally lock you up, and so you're incarcerated by the concept. And if we're using European concepts or white Western concepts, we're locked up in that. And I struggle with this idea that, we're going to talk about that, the ideas that you speak is a portal to your mind. And so if we're speaking Western psychology, we're saying that what's in our minds is Western thought. But we don't think about it, because that's sort of the philosophy of science kind of conversation. Those at the practitioner level, we say, "Oh, I'm a psychologist, or I'm a sociologist, or I'm an anthropologist, and that's my domain." But the philosophy of science says it's a greater idea. So the impetus behind developing the book, or writing the book on From Black Psychology to the Science of Being, was really not the development of the book. It was a culmination of ideas that I started to put together to give myself a kind of a roadmap to where my own intellectual trajectory was going. And so I was saying that I've been offering ideas about Black psychology, white psychology, and at some point people were talking about there were these streams in Black psychology. There was sort of an accommodationist theme, there was sort of an integrationist theme, and there were these sort of radical themes of folk. And I like the idea of the radical themes, because I didn't see radicals as the radical like revolutionary with Tamar, but radicals are the roots of a plant. That's what they're called. They're called radicals. And in my mind, that's where we need to go. We need to go to the roots of African thought in order for the branches to come out as psychology or whatever. And so so that's what I'm struggling with. And then I begin to think about concepts. So I had this concept like, again, conceptual incarceration. And at one point I said, those of us in conversation trying to say we can take the best of Western psychology and merge it with the best of African thought, and that will work. And I argued that was insufficient. And I gave the example that when you take a horse and you breed it with a donkey, you get a mule. And the interesting thing about a mule is that the mule cannot produce itself. The mule cannot produce another mule. And so why would we say we can take Western psychology and marry it to Black psychology, and produce something that is impotent, that has no ability to expand itself. So I'm being now struggling with these ideas, and I need to put on camera that I think that in some ways my work as an intellectual, as a scholar, is that I've been serving as a portal. It's not Wade Noble's magic, he's genius, he's so smart. No, I think that, and I intentionally do this. I think that I'm a portal for the reascension of ancient ideas. and that and into my own practice, in my own practice, my own life, that I have almost a time clock where the ancestors speak to me every night about 3, 4 a.m. and I get these ideas. And so my wife and I know that I try to not turn the light on to disturb her, but I have a little pad of paper on my bedstand, and I get these ideas, and if I don't write them down in the dark and wake up and then use them, when I wake up, they're gone. So I think those are sort of messages that are directing the understanding of the meaning of what we need to do. So a lot of my intellectual contributions, where people say, "Oh, you're a conceptual psychologist, you're a theoretical psychologist," and those labels sort of do fit, but it really is I'm a messenger of ancient for me, of ancient African thinking. And so I'm sort of struggling. So the culmination of my intellectual trajectory became for me, the realization is that we are moving from Black psychology, not to African-centered psychology, not to those, bicultural, purposeful, diversity, multicultural psychology, but we're really moving on an intellectual trajectory to where we're supposed to go. And for me, at this moment now, and it might change next year or next month or even tomorrow, where we're supposed to go is to take the authority for identifying the science of being. That we're more than psychology, we're more than sociology, we're more than anthropology, we're more than economics, we're more than all those Aristotelian disciplines that we inherited from Greek thought. And so I think it is a science. And the science is what the science of being. So in my previous writings, we talked about the Saku, the illumination. And I think that's really true, because as I have been brought to understand African wisdom traditions and ancient African thought, it was always about the illumination. It was about understanding the revelations. Things come to you, and that even our mystery systems in ancient Kemet were about going into the inner sanctum to be illuminated about understanding. So I'm on that sort of trajectory. So what I did in this new book, or this new contribution, was to do just that. To say we have Black psychology, but Black psychology is evolving. It is evolving, and where I think it's going is for us to take the authority to identify the science of being. I say authority because it's important that we see the root of authority in author. The author is the originator of an idea. And so the authority, you say, I'm taking the authority to be the practitioner of original ideas, or for us, it is the reclamation, it's the rescue, it's the restoration of those ancient ideas, because there really are no new ideas. So we just have to understand that our job is to dip down deep into the well of African thought and pull it up. And as we pull it up and the water is mixed with mud, we got to clear the mud out so we get a pure understanding. That's where the book comes from. I see it as an example, a summation of my, at this moment right now, of my intellectual trajectory. I think that as I move forward, and at one point I said, well, this is my capstone. I'm not doing any more. I've written 8 or 9 books. I've made my contribution. I'm through. But then I understand that I can't declare that, because the ancestors have a hold of me.